time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure, so let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by PSE Archery,
Buck Baits,
Better the Hunt,
Rebel 6 Rubs and Seasonings,
Easy Cut,
Lim Walker Game Calls,
Sunrise Archery,
Total Peep,
Hunter's Blend Coffee,
Packer Max,
Fourth Arrow Camera Arms,
Scent Blocker,
Scent Lock,
Copper John,
and Stanislawski Release Aids.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. Host Mike Adams sitting in the cabin tonight here in Michigan on a blustery, windy, somewhat chilly 1st of November.
It is. It's a little bit chilly, a little bit windy. Shout out to Buck Baits; they've joined in.
Hey, Buck Baits, thanks for tuning in tonight.
Yeah.
Speaking of, let's give a shout out to the people who support us.
Let's do
before
that.
we even get started.
Let's do that right away. And you know what? It'd be a windy day to be barbecuing out there. That's for sure. But you know what? You can still barbecue.
That's right.
Or you can use it
anytime.
Yeah, that's right. You can use it on the inside. But going over to support Rebel 6 Rubs over at rebel6rubs.com, you can get 20% off your order when you check out if you use the promo code NorthJournal. You know what? 15 days till opening season of
14.
14.
Today's the first.
Today's first, right? But you still got time to get in. Go check out Buck Baits over at buckbaits.com. You can get 20% off your order when you check out using the promo code UpNorthJournal. And don't forget to make sense of your scent.
I see what you did there.
See like I did there?
Yeah, all right, okay.
Right? And keeping us warm in the cabin, and we're not letting it blow away. Hunter's Blend Coffee, huntersblendcoffee.com. If you want 10% off your order, use the promo code capital UNJ, which is under Mike's finger if you're watching the show live on Facebook. If not, type it in on the podcast, capital UNJ at checkout.
I got my 32-ounce tumbler full.
I cannot do 32 ounces this late.
Blend coffee.
Right? Tammy Delk is in the house. Daniel
Welcome
Burns.
in. Daniel. Actually, we did a little pre-recorded thing with the Burns boys.
Yes, we did. We told you, if you were listening to the show a couple weeks back, that they were coming through town. We had them stop at Cabin South, my place, and we recorded a show with them, which we're going to air probably on November 15th, because we won't be here. So
Ron Moses, 14 days.
Right?
14 days is when we're going to have the show with the Burns.
That's right. So tune in then, and you can hear a great story about a great buck.
Hey, Jason Radecki, what is going on, my man? By the way, thank you for sending that video of that moose. I don't know where that came from exactly. I was assuming that was a Michigan moose, but that was pretty incredible. That thing walked right up to that guy.
Right?
Pretty cool.
Mark Coleman, must be warm in there. Dan lost his hoodie, but he still have the shirt on. Yeah, it gets a little warm in here. When we close the door, we fire up the lights, we start talking, and we have hot coffee.
Hot air.
It does get warm in here, no doubt about it. Terry, my brother, beautiful Michigan weather. You know what? Funny you say that because you're right. Because up north is upper, lower, and eastern UP is going to get hit pretty hard tonight.
They're getting hammered.
But it's supposed to be like mid-60s during the week.
Yeah, well, last part of the week, yeah. But still,
so.
I am so glad that I am not up north right now trying to hunt in a tree stand. The way things are blowing, it is incredible. Right. Incredibly windy.
Linda Ed Thornhill, how's it going? Nancy, how's it going? And Ron Moses, sounds like duck hunters were doing well today. You know what? You're funny you said that. I think you're right, because I did hear some early morning shooting. If you turn back your clocks.
There's a joke there. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I can't say what it is, but those of you who live in the mid-Michigan area, you may know what I'm referring to. And if you do, you get the joke.
Right. Jason Radecki says his buddy from Minnesota sent it to him. So it might have been a Minnesota moose.
Okay. Right on.
But turn back your clocks. It's now 7 o'clock. We are back. We're live in the cabin.
Did that time change mess you up?
Well, I wait till I get up this morning, and I was up right on time for a weekend, 7 o'clock. It's like I get
clockwork.
Well, it's called dog clock.
Yeah.
7 o'clock. The little guy got to get out.
Yep.
So I got up, flipped the coffee on, and then I looked and went, "Oh yeah, it is now 6 o'clock."
It's not 7; it's 6.
Right. So I'm sure it'll mess me up for a day or two, but I'll get through the show with some Hunter's Blend coffee, and I should be out.
Be ready to go.
I'm with Mike. Biggest coffee is always better, especially with a metal interior from Tammy Dilk.
That's this tumbler here has got a metal interior. I've got, I don't know. I mean, obviously I got the logo on the front. You know what kind it is there. But I've got several of different kinds of tumblers like this that I tell you what, you put hot coffee in them or you put something cold in them. Doesn't matter which brand it is. They all seem to do a pretty good job.
They all do a pretty good job. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. I've got is that the Mossy Oak one?
No.
I've got a Mossy Oak one. Oh, it's the Yeti one.
Yeah.
I got a Mossy Oak one. Same thing.
Actually, I'm gonna
Kyle Sharp says, "Hello, fellows."
Hey, Kyle, what's going on tonight? Actually, I'm going to take this lid off because, man, this stuff is just smoking hot.
And Nancy says, "Thank you, TV5." So if anybody wants to know in on the joke, you got to find out about what TV5 did yesterday about turning back your clocks.
If you really want to know what we're talking about, send me a PM and I'll send you the graphic.
Oh, there you go.
That's all I'm going to say.
Tammy Delk says, "Oh, it's just an hour." And you're right, it is.
It's just an
Not
hour.
gonna lie.
Just an hour. That's it.
But yeah, so you know what? We're here in November. We're 14 days out from the Michigan opener.
See, Mark Coleman says, before we get started, talk about the hats we're wearing. I'm assuming the ones we got on tonight.
Okay, so the hat I'm wearing is my UNJ hat, and on the side I've got my PSE logo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
big shout out to PSE because I'm getting ready to take it up north and hopefully shoot something.
Well, and the one I'm sporting tonight and the shirt actually both go hand in hand. Brand new from Better the Hunt, one of our supporters here at the Up North Journal. So, and actually, they're on next week.
Yeah, next
So,
week we're gonna have
tune in
Better the
next
Hunt
week.
on. And you know what, guys? The reason we're actually that was Mark. Good segue. We're getting into November, which leads you into December, which leads you into Christmas.
Right.
And you know what? Stay tuned. Better the Hunt's on next week. Easy Cut. If you're thinking of Christmas and what to get people, check out our supporters that we have, and we've talked to them all throughout the year. Great Christmas ideas.
Great stocking stuffers.
Stocking stuffers, Christmas ideas. You're right, Ron Moses. Ding, ding, ding. Good call.
Yeah, Kyle Sharp says, I had a feeling Mike had the graphic saved. Yes, I do. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Right?
He knows because he's up in that area where that TV station is.
Yes, he is. And so it was, yeah. But anyways, Christmas is coming. Stay tuned. Better the Hunt next week. Check out Easy Cut. Check out all our sponsors and supporters for Christmas ideas. We're going to try to get a lot of them on between now and December to get you some information to get to them. Rebel 6 Rebels, I think we're going to try to get on early December, talk to them. So we'll be talking gifts as we arrive. But we've got hunting season here in 14 days in Michigan. I've seen a lot of bucks fall this weekend.
I'm sorry. Ron Moses, you're cracking me up, man.
Ron Moses, my tree's already up.
His wife already has his tree up. He says, I
Yep.
love her. Yeah.
Yep, my tree's already up.
There was a little bit of talk of that today amongst me and somebody, and I'm not putting a tree up this year. I'm not going to have anything to do with putting a tree up. If a tree gets put up, the kids are putting it up.
Yep, my tree's up. Just got to light it up. I think it was Friday I did it. Just got it up.
Hey,
put it
Ken
up.
Cicluna, what's going on?
Yeah, so
All right, well, let's get into it, man.
Let's do it.
We've been rambling for 8 minutes, and we haven't even started the show yet.
right. So let's do this.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, day like today, here in Michigan, we're not in a southern state.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty blustery.
Pretty
Just-
blustery.
Okay.
It was 40-mile-an-hour winds, dude.
Okay, it would be howling. Actually, you got a call, and you did an article about all-day sitting.
Yeah, actually, bowhunting360.com, part of ATA Group, Archer Trade Association, called me a little over a week ago
Okay.
and wanted to do a phone interview about all-day hunting or all-day sits in the tree stand. And actually, while we're talking here, I've got the link. I'm going to actually, if anybody's interested, I'm going to post it in a thread here.
Charles Byram just had a
In the
180
chat.
to 190 class buck run across the road in front of him.
And he's sitting talking to us instead.
No, too bad he's already got his buck.
That's true. So
Tammy Delk says, too soon. Bird hasn't even been plucked for the oven.
So there you go. There's the article right there. And the picture on the article, I just posted in the chat room, courtesy of Dan DeFaw from Michigan's Upper Peninsula. But yeah, they interviewed me about sitting all day, doing all day hunts. And that's something I've kind of taken up in the last 4, 5, 6 years or so. So
Usually rifle season is the first couple days are an all-day sit for me.
yeah, that's kind of where I started with it.
And then we kind of see how it starts to roll out, and maybe we want to change things up or something just to the wood starts to look the same.
Right.
So, but so talk to me about the article.
Well, there was different points about how you started, why you started doing it, when you start doing it. What do you take with you? How do you prepare for different things? And just like food. What do you take with you? How do you know what to take with you? And my go-to is usually I take a Powerade with me. That way I've got some electrolytes. That or I take water, one or the other. But I also take I got a thermos that holds 6 small cups of Hunter's Blend coffee.
Right, keeps you warm
conveniently enough. But that gets me through the day. And then I'll pack, usually 3, maybe 4 Cliff bars and a couple of granola bars. I try to keep it to where I'm not constantly in my pack with food on a continual basis because it makes noise. If you're in tree stand,
but you are burning energy.
You're burning energy, and I try to get something that's going to fuel my body that I don't have to keep going back for over and over and over and over again. So,
and that's one of the things that you really. If you sit all day and you wonder why you get back to the cabin or wherever you're staying,
mm-hmm.
and by the end of the day you're really tired.
Yep.
It's like you sit back and go, well, you're just hunting. Well,
yeah.
No, but you're putting your body through a lot, whether it be mentally, physically, to keep your body warm.
Right.
Especially like today, right?
Right. Yeah. If you don't have a heater, if you're sitting in a tree stand.
Right. Or even if you're in a heater, you're
in a heater.
I mean, if you with a heater, you're still that mental.
I don't want to be in a heater, man.
Right. You're Mark Coleman says teepee.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you just you're putting your mental capabilities through an all day sit, and you're burning energy.
Yeah.
And like you said, the Cliff bars.
Yeah. Well, to go along with the food, what Mark Coleman just said, the TP. Yes. Take toilet paper. You got to have it. Inevitably, at some point, nature is probably going to call one way or another, number 1 or number 2. Let's just be real about it here. With that being said, that's one reason I like to use the Cliff bars or granola bars, something real light that's got some calorie intake to it. So I'm not eating a lot of food. If I eat breakfast, it's real light. I mean, I try to plan that part of that out. So number 1, you got to climb down out of your stand. Number 2. If you got to take number 2, see what I did there?
Right, I see that.
Number 2, you've got to get down, find a spot, dig a hole, and then cover it up after the fact. So there's a lot of movement. You got to be very careful when you're using toilet paper because it's waving the white flag because you don't want any other hunters mistaking you for a deer. There's just a lot of different things that happen with all that.
Right,
so
exactly.
Speak,
and Linda and Ed Thornhill point out something actually very good, saying down underwear is what clothing are you using?
You got to plan accordingly.
You do. You gotta take a look at the weather, know what's going on. Like today, you definitely need something that's going to block the wind.
Yeah.
If you're in the elements.
Yeah.
If you're in a pop up blind or a shooting house or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not bad. But you definitely gotta.
Well, you got to think about the type of hunting you're going to be doing as well. I mean, if you're doing a tree stand sit and it's a blustery day or a cold day, you've got to dress accordingly. You've got to figure out how you're going to get to your stand without breaking sweat and getting chilled, getting your clothes wet on the inside. You know what I'm saying? Like when we talked about when I used to bike to my stand, I would ride out in my base layers. It'd be nice and chilly and cold, but I'd have all my heavies strapped onto my backpack.
Right.
So then when I got to my stand, I could suit up, and I wasn't all sweaty. But now that I got the e-bike, just zip right out. It's not a
matter of fact.
deal.
It's funny you say that. I think it was this past weekend, a day around this weekend. One of my memories that popped up was when you, myself, and Dan were up at your place.
Yeah,
and literally we were stripping down to walk out.
Yep,
and it was pretty cold. But, just to make sure we don't oversweat, overdo it, get into our stand.
Right.
A change of socks is always good.
Yep.
Because if your feet sweat, you want to change those out.
The other thing thinking about, too, is are you going to be doing a sit or are you going to be doing a stalk? Some people like to get out and stalk with a bow. If you're doing an all-day set, that helps pass that time. If you're sitting and stand and it's, getting in the middle of the day and you're like, man, I'm getting a little bored. I think I'm going to change my sit-up. Maybe the wind's changed directions and it's not conducive for that stand. You want to get down. To help pass that time. If you're going to do some stalking, you got to think about that. Your base layers, are they camo? Versus maybe a solid black or green or brown or whatever.
Well,
it's those types of things you got to think
exactly.
about, so you put yourself in the element of surprise versus being seen.
Day like today is a great morning sit, and then as soon as this wind picks up like it did today, why not do a little sneak? Get your nose in the wind and start moving along slow, because they're at a disadvantage with the howling and the noise that this wind is creating. So
absolutely,
you can try something new.
I tell you what, we're bumping up on our first break. Let's continue this talk after the break. So
There you go.
let's step outside real quick, take our first break, and we'll come right back after this.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows.
From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible.
By basing your bow choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Second segment of the show. Talking about all-day sits in the stand. How do you do it? How do you prepare for it?
Question.
Yeah.
How do you keep your butt from hurting when sitting in a tree stand all day? It's Mark Coleman's biggest challenge. He takes a cushion, but it doesn't always help.
Depending on the type of stand that you've got, what I'd like to do is I'll get to a point where I feel like my legs are starting to cramp a little bit or my butt's starting to hurt, just like he's saying, is I'll actually stand up.
Yes.
And like stand on point per se, with my bow, and you just got to figure a comfortable position. Maybe your stand actually has a flip up seat on it, so you can actually get back against the tree. And I'll stand and I'll shift my weight from one leg to the other, back and forth,
Right.
Very slightly, so you don't make some movement.
You learn the art of shifting, standing, various techniques just to change it up a little bit.
Yep.
Especially, I refer back to a day like today with a windy day like today. If you're in a tree stand, it kind of helps because everything's blowing. So
you can get away with more movement.
You can get it, yeah. It's not like a dead still cold morning where a pin drops down the tree stand and you can hear every rung, or that last 20 minutes before darkness when it just quiets right down, right?
Okay, I'm gonna throw one at you.
Sure.
There's 18 million different ways you can debate this. You're in a tree stand. We've already talked about number 2. You gotta take a quick little leak. Do you get down? Do you try to hold it? Do you pee from the stand? Do you pee on the tree? The stand's on. What's your?
So if I'm in a
method?
tree stand, then I almost time it accordingly to almost say, okay, it's a break.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of the tree stand, kind of go real slow, just to kind of move,
get away from the stand.
Get away from the stand. Just find a nice little private spot to take your whiz, and then get back up in the tree.
Okay.
It's almost like a 15-minute break.
Do you worry about urine scent out in the field?
Not
like
really.
I said, that's debatable. I mean, so many guys.
That is really debatable. Where I hunt, I've walked in and I've had the deer walk right where I've walked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not. I'm cautious, but optimistically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And like you said, that can be debated 101 ways as to how that all works. But
Okay.
that's what I would do. I would say, okay, it's break time. Maybe around lunchtime, kind of get my stretch out and do that.
Talking about the movement from the stand, actually, there's a couple guys on here, Charles Barham and Kyle Sharp, both talking about tree saddle hunting. They said that when the wind blows, it's their saving grace of being able to get away with movement, and shift that weight and move from, because they're in that seated position. So I guess hunting from a saddle, it gives them that added advantage.
Exactly.
So we gotta get on here one night and talk to one of you guys about saddle hunting. And get a little take on it. That's something I've been interested in. We've not really talked about it a whole lot. Daniel Burns talks about using an empty water bottle for urine. I've done that before as well, and taking it and capping it, putting it in my pack, and taking it away from the stand and dumping it.
Mark Coleman, let it fly from the stand, but you should check wind direction first. All right, Denny Steiner's in the house.
He said he's hunted many days from dark to dark, covered most of my prep. Summit climber stands are great. You can move from the bottom up or down to help be comfortable. Gotcha. All right. Science has shown the ammonia smell dissipates after 20 minutes. Yeah, and Ken, that's another good point. A lot of guys don't even worry about the ammonia smell because they say deer have the same basic makeup of urine. What worries me, and guys, gals, if you eat asparagus, you know what I'm talking about. It's got a different smell to it. It's a stronger smell. So depending on what you're eating or drinking is going to dictate a little bit of what that smell is like.
Right. Exactly.
And I got to imagine a deer's diet's pretty much the same all the time, so theirs is going to smell pretty much the same all the time.
Yep.
Versus ours is going to be a little.
And that's just one of the other aspects of sitting all day. Like you said, we've got your clothes.
Yes, this show has taken a turn.
Right, Nancy?
But it's important for hunters to, this is something you have to face.
Different areas play differently where you hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Byram, he can't do it. He brings an empty bottle.
Yep.
There are some places where that is just enough to change the deer.
Yeah, it's a deal breaker for the deer coming in.
Yeah.
They pick up on the scent and it's done. They're busted.
Then you got guys that will drive their trucks out there because they're used to the farm equipment.
Yeah.
So it all depends.
Situational.
Exactly.
Well, not to get too in depth here, but I know my dad has actually peed from the stand. He told me about this right on top of a buck's head.
There you go.
To see if he could get away with it. He got away with it. So
there you go. Kyle Sharp says anytime you want to talk about his gear, he'll talk about it.
Cool. Good deal.
So there was an article. It came out. You posted the link.
Yep, the link's there in the chat.
Yep. So
if anybody on the podcast, I'll put it in the show notes as well. But some of the other things we talked about was how do you kill the boredom? That's a huge one during the midday lull. There's times I'll get up and I'll switch stands. Just because there's nothing going on, if there's no deer activity, it's like, okay, I'm going to get down. Don't be afraid to get down and go to a different stand. Or if the wind direction changes, get down and move to a different stand.
Watch your conditions.
Yep.
If the wind changes, if you're in the open and you're not in a shooting shack, switch. Because it's the what is it? The afraid to make change.
Yep.
Don't be afraid to do it.
Don't be afraid to make change.
Because one end of the field might make a difference.
Exactly. And this is huge. Cell phones now, everybody's got them. They take them with them. Yeah, we're not supposed to be on them while we're hunting. But I tell you what, when things are at a lull, it can be huge. Make sure, though, if you take one with you, because inevitably you're going to be texting your buddy, or you're going to be texting somebody back home, this is what's going on. Or you're checking your weather conditions. Or if you've got it hooked up to your trail cameras, you're getting trail cam pics and go, wow, man, I should have been in that stand today instead of this one. But the point is if you're using these on a frequent basis, make sure you take a rechargeable big battery with you that you can plug into to get it charged. Because if you get in trouble, you got a storm coming in, you want to stay on top of the storm. But also, if you get in trouble in the woods, this is your lifeline.
Absolutely, it is.
So make sure they're charged.
And you don't have to dial out on it. You just got to have a little bit of a charge to it, and they can ping it.
Mm-hmm.
So Charles Byram, we are meat eaters. How do we smell like a vegan? Eat apples and drink apple juice 2 weeks prior to the day you're going to hunt.
I've heard that too. I've heard that.
I heard that from Ted Nugent.
Well, actually, you think about the Atkins diet.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
People who are on the Atkins diet, they're eating basically meat and protein product, and obviously their body odor is a lot stronger.
Another thing to do while you're out there to cut boredom is assess what you're doing to wherever you're hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Start thinking differently. What if I put a stand over there, or start running different plays in your head and scenarios. What's your plan for doing this, or what's your plan for doing that? Just play some mental games with yourself that keeps your mental alertness going, because if you're sleeping, it usually doesn't work out.
You should be sleeping in a tree stand to begin with anyway.
Well,
that's dangerous.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Plus, the buck of a lifetime is going to walk by.
The other thing that I like to do a lot of times, because I'll usually have my rangefinder in my front pocket. I'll pull it out and I'll say that tree is 43 yards, and then I'll range it. Play that guesstimation game.
The what ifs.
Yeah.
What if the deer comes this way and he's behind that tree? What if he comes this way? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I ready? I was doing that when I was in my stand. If the deer comes from here or comes from there, where's my shooting lane? What do I plan to do? What am I going to go for? So an all day a sit can be mentally and physically challenging, especially in weather like today.
Kyle Sharp takes a Sudoku puzzle book with him.
There you go.
Something as simple as a small book, whether it be crossword Sudoku or whatever. It's something that you can do that keeps you mentally alert and going. Because I'm telling you, all day sits can get boring really quick if there's no deer activity, especially if you're locked into one stand or one spot.
Oh, absolutely. And we've had him on the show. Any Jerry Lambert book, if you haven't gotten them, order them from him on Amazon. Jerry Lambert, he's got several books out there. Great reads for the camp, great reads for out in the woods.
Yep.
Check them out.
So those are just a few of the things that I do to help break some of the boredom when I'm out in the stand. Another thing, talking about for beginners, any of you guys that say, well, you know what, I don't know if it'd be for me. Well, then, when you go out for your morning sit, extend it an hour or two. Go out an hour or two early for your evening sit. Start extending your hunting times until you get that overlap to where you start staying out all day. Gradually progress into it. So all-day sits are not for everybody.
And they change, too, because as you get deeper into the season, it gets shorter. Because a sit on October 1st is a 12-hour sit as opposed to, actually it's longer than that, I think, as you get into November, right? So, like Mark Coleman, he checks his equipment, he runs through it. It's repetition, making sure he's got everything ready to go.
Charles Baum talks about another great thing about this hunting saddles is totally sleep safely all the time. And I've heard that from the guys who do the saddle hunting, that it is completely safe to fall asleep in those saddles, the way they're strapped in.
And my brother wants a good snack.
A good snack.
I always have a good snack.
But you got to keep them quiet. That's the key, especially when you're in archery and you're in a stand, archery hunting. So, Tammy Dell, bit of a fidgeter. I am in a ground blind. You can get away with a little more movement that way as well, but like I said, cell phones pass the time in a good way, but you got to be alert, mentally alert, but you got to have that battery to recharge. I wish I had mine in here. I've got a big brick. It's about the same size as this.
Yeah, I got the smaller brick, about the size of your phone.
And I can get 4 charges, and that'll get me through a day, no problem.
Right, exactly. So you just figure it out, and you test different things. And if, in my case, I can't shoot any does, so I can try to see what I can get away with them. I
drawing back on them,
moving right to left. Can they hear this noise? Can they hear that noise? One of the things I did in our ground blinds, we put from the foam mat. Went to Harbor Freight, 4 square.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Keep it quiet.
And they don't mind. So, yeah, it's really, and at the end of the day, when hopefully you're successful, and if you're successful, I've been on an all day sit, and it takes till like 2 o'clock to get your deer.
Right.
And it's like, okay.
Well, that's the other thing about, an all day sit. Well, it's like people say, well, why would you want to sit out there all day? Most of your deer movements between, early in the morning, right after the first hour or two after daylight, and then last hour of daylight or two of daylight before dark. And it's like, no, the very first buck I shot was at 11:30 in the morning.
Yep.
Almost straight up noon. So I've seen plenty of deer movement. I've seen lots of other game out in the middle of the day. That coyote that I shot 2-3 years ago,
middle of the day,
running a buck.
Well, that's the thing. It's you got to remember, deer have a tendency to go all night. Then they'll shut down for a couple hours, and then they get back up, which puts you just about midday, which is actually warm for them because they're using the warmth of the earth, right? So
okay, so Mark Coleman, he's got a good question here. A couple quick questions actually. He said, there's stuff coming in left and right here. I'm trying to hold it down so I can read it. He says, who do you text or call first? Number 1, in an emergency, and number 2, after you shoot a monster buck? Dan?
Who am I hunting with? We'll get the first call.
Okay.
It's
an emergency or
yes?
Okay.
Because they're the closest to me.
Okay.
If I'm able to get to my phone in an emergency, who am I with? Gets the first call to come help me, or to say, hey, I shot one. I'm going to need help, or I shot one. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I got it. Just sit tight. We'll take care of it at noon, or we'll take care of it after dark.
Right.
Or I'll take care of it at all. Because we pretty much know if it's gun season, who shoots. I'll get a text, hey, was that you? I'll say, yeah. And do you need anything? Nope. All set. Deer's down. I see it.
Right.
We'll take care of it later. Okay. And then I can just take my time, back out, do what I need to do, go tag the deer.
Yep.
And take care of it. Emergency, same thing. I need the closest person to me to come help me. That's who's going to get the phone call.
Okay. For me, if it depends if I've shot a buck or a doe. If it's a doe, I always text the people in my hunting party that I'm with. Hey, that was me that shot. Or if I'm archery hunting, I'm like, hey, I got a doe down. Same thing. Hey, I'm good. Or hey, I need some help or whatever. I run through that scenario. If I've shot a good buck, the first call is going to be to my dad. Always has been, probably always will be as long as he's still here on the earth with me. He's the one that brought me up hunting and taught me the ropes, so that's my go-to phone call. Case of an emergency, it's going to be to who's closest to me.
Absolutely.
And if nobody's closest to me, it's going to be 911. But I want to go over something for you guys who have iPhones. if you've got a iWatch, which I've got and I've had for almost 2 years now, these newer watches have what's called a fall indicator on them.
Yes.
And a lot of people I've talked to don't know this, but I keep mine turned on, especially when I'm hunting and climbing in stands, because in years past I've hunted by myself quite a bit. And what this does is if you were to fall, it detects the fall, and it has an alarm or an indicator go off, and you've got, I think it's 30 seconds to actually shut it off, that you're okay. If you don't, it automatically calls 911 and gives them your GPS coordinates. Secondly, everybody that's in your contact list, emergency contact list in your phone,
it phones them.
It sends all of them a text message, and it also indicates where you're at.
Okay.
And that you've fallen. So
Nice.
to me, these things could save your life. So that's just a nice little piece that you can have there. So
Right. Conditions really got to be great before I will do an all-day sit. Not going to do it just because I want to. That's Charles. My brother says make sure your wife's cell phone is turned down. That helps. Tim, share a blind with Ed and Linda. He has some great stories. Nothing like a good story.
what's that again? I'm sorry. Somebody just shot me a message.
Tim says to share a blind with Linda and Ed Thornhill. He has some great stories.
Okay. Stories are always good.
Absolutely.
So, okay, that takes me down a tangent. We got time, actually. Last quick tangent here.
All right.
And we're going to take a break. When you sit with somebody in a blind, you talking back and forth, or you keep it silent?
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be silent times.
And times where you're telling stories.
And times where you're talking. Depends on who I'm with, too. If it's somebody that's maybe new to hunting.
Mm-hmm. You're giving them instructions.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, if there's a deer coming in,
okay.
Watch the deer. What's happening?
Gotcha.
They're looking behind them. Oh, there's deer in. They're all looking left.
Mm-hmm.
Start looking that way because they see something we don't.
Right.
And actually, they are great indicators. They will stare at something until they identify it. Then they
either
they check off on it and they're okay,
or they take off.
Yeah. But yeah, either or. It depends on who I'm with, and
Okay.
if it's somebody like we've been hunting forever, it's like then we start making stories and
he usually gives me hand signals.
Right.
Not the nice ones.
Right. So.
All right, I tell you what. Let's step outside. We take our next break. We come back. We're going to take a little different turn here. We come back. We're going to talk about one of the big shows that's just been canceled here in the United States. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Welcome back to the third segment of the show. We talked a lot about sitting all day, the first two segments here, and that little interview that we did with Bow Hunting 360. You can find, for those of you on the podcast, find the link to that article in the show notes. And for those of you on the live stream, we've actually put that in the chat right there towards the top, pretty close to the top. So speaking of Bow Hunting 360, ATA, and all that, we recently received word, what was it, 2 weeks ago-ish?
About 2 weeks
Maybe
ago,
three,
that
they've canceled.
Well, it's the ATA show has officially canceled. Well, public showing has been canceled for 2021, and they've moved the show to online. It'll actually it's going to take place a week later than originally scheduled for the in-person appearance. It's now going to be a week later, and it's going to be all online. Now, they're going to still have all the show specials. They're going to have the classes. They're going to have the education classes. They're going to have their awards announced. They're going to have an online media summit. Everything, but it's all online.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's been some talk of, was it the right thing to do? Was it the wrong thing to do? It seems a lot of these shows, you sent me one that said the Harrisburg show was canceled. That's a public event that's being canceled.
Yep.
And like I said last week, there's a wild game dinner that's on the brink of being canceled. They'll tell us in December. But yeah, so with that being said, with the ATA, we won't be going to ATA this year. We won't be doing our ATA show specials that we try to do live from the show floor when we have said person right there with us.
Right.
So
I think that's going to be the biggest disappointment for me is the fact that we're not going to have those people on and be able to talk to them.
And it was talked about this by another media outlet. It's the one time of the year that we see some of these people.
Exactly.
We talk to them on the phone, we talk to them on Skype, and this is the one time we actually see them in person. We can actually sit down with them, we can actually talk with them. It's not going to happen next year. So with that, it's a sad thing, but it is what it is, and we'll figure out how to go about not being able to do it. It sounds like it's going to be a lot more phone challenging and Skype challenging, but so that it's been canceled. It's all online now, so it'll save us a few days of vacation.
Save us some money.
But is it the right thing to do?
That's the bigger question I've got is okay, so they made this decision to go, and because of COVID and what's going on, I understand people are very reluctant or apprehensive to do things and hold these bigger events now, but what is this really going to do to the ATA, as far as the future of it? And that's my bigger concern is where do we go from here? This year ICAST went virtual. I didn't actually watch it per se, so I don't know how that turned out and how that's going to affect them from going forward. But we've talked about this several times here in the last 2 or 3 years. How it seems like the show floor is starting to shrink. We have less people on the show, or less exhibitors on the show floor. The aisles are getting wider.
Yes, exactly. The exhibitors are getting smaller in number, and the aisles are getting wider. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a dead giveaway.
So,
but and another thing is, there is a few mega companies out there that have a dozen or so names under them as their umbrella. And what that's done is now is opposed to having 12 different exhibitors, you just now have one big exhibitor.
That's got maybe the booth space of 4.
Right.
So you're losing people that way as well, or losing manufacturers that way as well. So if they're able to pull this off virtually this year, is that going to set a trend from now on for it to start being virtual, people pulling back and saving their money, on the company side to go to these shows? What are they really getting out of it, and where's that
you think
going?
about it, and these companies, they spend the bigger companies that get the bigger booths spend a lot of money. They got to send PSE sends a truck, they send their equipment, they send people.
Shout out to my dad who's watching right now. Thanks for tuning in, Pop.
Look at that. Old Pops is on listening, watching.
Right.
So they're spending a lot of money. The smaller guy trying to make it into the industry, whether he's in Innovation Row.
That's the people I think it's going to really hurt.
That's their a couple chances that they have to break into the door, to let somebody see their product.
Right.
They're not going to be able to, in essence, show their product around. Hey, come over to my booth. Here's my card. That personal repertoire you gain with different people, whether it be at the show or at a dinner or at a hotel, within the area of the show. I think what's going to happen, I think it's going to redefine what this is going to turn into. Mm-hmm. It'll take it's already slated for next 2022. It's going back to Louisville.
Okay.
Ugh, I know, right?
Louisville.
But I think it's going to redefine how things are done. ICAST was probably going to find out. It'll take them maybe a year or two. I think it's going to take ATA a year or two.
Yeah.
Depends on if we get back to a normalcy of what that is. And it also depends on how the retailers and sales do for next year.
That could be huge. If they figure out they can do this without having to spend the money on an actual show, I think you're going to see the end of ATA, the actual trade show. So...
Mark Coleman. I recently invented and received my patent pending on a product industry was hoping to promote it at DAA. So disappointed. Exactly. That you're in Innovative Row. That was your chance to say, hey, look at my product. This is what I have to offer. Now you're going to have to find out how to do that. You're going to have to knock on doors or phone calls and get a minute of time. Whereas you could actually in person, got that minute of time where they could touch, see, and feel your product.
Yeah. Kyle's got a great point here. Kyle, we've talked about this a lot. He says, I think, in my opinion, coming from someone who has worked in the industry for multiple years, ATA has essentially become more of a social outlet rather than the release show it used to be. Bow companies seem to continue releasing new bow models earlier and earlier each year for the past few years. ATA used to be the show because everyone brought their new stuff never seen before. I think you're spot on with a lot of that, because what happens is all of a sudden one bow company wants to jump the gun and get the early jump on releasing a bow. So when they go to ATA, everybody comes to that booth and starts placing orders for that bow.
Yep.
Then, okay, so they do that 1 year. Then the next company says, well, you know what? They released in December. We're going to do it in November. Oh, well, now it's in October. Well, now it's in September. And all of a sudden, we're playing this game almost like with you being in the auto industry, whereas the 2021 models are already out, and it's, they were out in the middle of 2020.
Yeah, July. So you're right. And really, besides that, and you're right, Kyle, it used to be the show to go to. But what it's not going to be able to replace that it was talked about was the foreigners from other countries for 1 week coming to one spot to be able to touch everybody and talk to everybody in one spot. Mm-hmm. Now, are they going to be able to take their and be able for these companies to reach out and maybe take a trip to Europe or a trip to Asia? That's yet to see. But you're right. It used to be the premier show just a few years back when they had media blackout, mm-hmm. and it would be, hey, what's coming out at the ATA? Well, stay tuned for 2 weeks. Now, by the time we get to the show, they've already made their deals. They've
mm-hmm.
already made their orders. A lot of it's done. There's just a few of them that wanted to come to show.
Yeah.
Last minute decisions. Maybe they got some deals or what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, absolutely, no doubt about it, Kyle. It takes that a little bit away from the nostalgia of ATA. And kind of turns it, and now it's going to be online. So stay tuned. I think it's going to take probably 2 years. This first year, they'll get how it went for the online show, see what the sales do, and then it's going to be up to the manufacturers and the purchasing people to say, well, I don't need to go there anymore. Mm-hmm. We just did it.
Yeah.
And my sales didn't drop off because I made a phone call and my rep hooked me up.
Yeah. Well, and Kyle says here, he says, we're not even done with bow season yet, and his shop's scheduled to receive one of the new 2021 models coming up in the coming week. So, we're still in the 2020 bow season, halfway through it, and they're already shoving 2021s out. It's just the way it's going.
You're right. And
with these things, with phones, the internet, everything like that, it's making everything more accessible, quicker. I remember it's changed so much from when we first started going, 10, 12 years ago.
It used to be the thing to go to.
It was 12 or 13 years ago. It was my first ATA, and we were embargoed for two weeks. We couldn't release any pictures. We couldn't talk about anything at all for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Or we were not allowed back in the following year.
Yep. Now it's who can be live streaming at that moment. And Kyle's right. It's very true. Overseas and the smaller guys will suffer, but the big dogs won't think anything of.
No.
It's just the way it is. The gentleman from Colorado that gave us the hats. A little place like that. Great shop out in Colorado. They came from Colorado to the show.
Archery school, the Rockies.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The people that
you meet. We made friends up in Wisconsin from the True Flight Arrows or True Flight Feathers. The gentleman and lady from them. The lady from Grayling Archery Products.
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about.
She used to work with Fred Bear.
Yes,
but those types of people that we're not going to get to see in the industry that they're getting on in a few years, but you wonder, are we ever going to get to see those people again? You don't know, because there's going to come a point in time when people quit going to the show or they pass on.
Right, and it's one of those things. What's all this doing? What's it all mean? So, is it sad? Yeah, I always look forward to that show because we get to go see the PSE guys. We don't always get to Arizona. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our one and only chance to see those guys and meet them and talk to them and everybody else. Randy from Better the Hunt.
Yep.
He's from Idaho.
Yep.
It's not like we're going to run into him in the coffee shop.
Right.
So, but yeah. So it's really interesting that these shows. I think for ATA, it's going to be a change. I think what's really going to hurt on these public shows, Harrisburg, Outdoorama around here, if they cancel shows around here, it's the guy and gal that make money specifically off the show.
The smaller items.
The smaller
companies.
The smaller companies that rely on the public events.
Selling at a booth.
Yep. They're the ones that are going to hurt on that aspect. ATA is going to redefine itself.
Yeah.
In what way?
We don't know
Stay
yet.
tuned, because I think it's going to really come down to money saved and what the bottom line is.
Yes, Mark Krumlin, we are. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and take our last break, because that's what I want to talk about. He says he thought we were going to talk about wolves.
That too.
All right. We're going to step outside. We're going to take our last break, and we'll be right back after this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Last segment of the show, and one of our guests has said, when we're going to talk about the wolves. We're going to talk about wolves right now.
Yeah, we are going to talk about wolves because the Trump administration has and is working to remove them from the endangered species list, returning that back to the individual states to manage, except for the Mexican wolf. It's the only exception to the change.
I didn't know there was a Mexican wolf.
I didn't know either. So
News to me.
what that does now is it tells you one thing. It tells you that the gray wolf is a success story.
I think it is.
It is a success story from bringing them back. They were pretty darn near extinct due to trapping and killing. And so now that with this protection, they have recovered, and now they're back.
To a point where they can be managed.
Yes. So they estimate there are about 6,000 in the lower 48 states. Now, it exceeds 6,000. I'm going to say it's probably a lot more than that because I don't know how you can count each.
Well, they estimate we've got, 1,500 to 1,800 here in Michigan alone in the Upper Peninsula?
Right. So with that being said...
So you really think we got almost a third of the wolves here in Michigan? I don't.
I think we got more.
I don't think we have a third of the total population.
I have a hard time believing they know where everyone is. Now what?
Kyle calling me out.
That right?
Yeah, about to get fired up.
No, not really. It's really good. It's one of the things.
I think it's a good thing.
They need to return it back to the state.
Yep.
Let us manage it. Let the DNR manage it.
Hang on. Let me get the soapbox out.
Right?
Dust it off. Here you go, Danny.
Thank you.
Jump up there.
Let's manage it the correct way. Because I had a conversation this past week about this, and it was funny because it wasn't funny. It was. I was asked a serious question. Well, you're going to go out and kill them all. I said, no. You go out and manage them, just like you manage the bears, the coyotes, and everything else. I said they're not that easy to hunt. We are the one and only hunt that we had here in Michigan. They slated 43 to be killed, and they made it to about 22. But they didn't use trapping. It was purely hunting.
Right.
I think they should let the trappers get in on this. We don't know if there's gonna be a season or what's gonna be on.
I wish that there was a way to know how many incidental catches via foothold traps there were of wolves on an annual basis, on average here in Michigan.
No, yeah, exactly.
Because you know that there has to be some incidentals along the way.
Got to be.
I would assume a few people that are out trapping.
Right, exactly. And then you go from there, and it's like, okay, now you give it back to the states, whether it be a Minnesota, a Michigan, wherever you want to take it out west, and say, okay, you handle it, you deal with it, which is the correct way to do it. And then I don't know how you want to do it, but if we have another hunting season, make sure you use all the methods that are there for us, whether it be a trapping season or a hunting season. It showed the last time when we didn't include trapping, you got to about half. I think it's smart. Not going to lie. They learn. They figure that you're after them. We heard them up. Up north. We hear there's about a pack in the area that it kind of they're a traveling pack. We can tell where they're kind of at when they start howling at night, and it's way different than the coyotes. But
how many wolves have you actually seen? Laid eyes on?
Two.
Okay.
My brother's seen a couple. We've all seen a couple. It seems.
Okay.
And
could you have taken a shot at one if they were legal?
Yes. Oh, one. Yeah, for sure. One I could have really shot. The other one was kind of. I saw it going up out of the trail, and it went off into the hardwoods, and Had a cut paw. That was kind of interesting. Yeah, so they're taking it off the list. Let's get it back in the States. Let us handle it. Or let the DNRs handle it, hopefully correctly. I think in the Michigan article that I read about that, they asked the DNR here, and they said they wouldn't have enough time, which I get. It's towards the end. You just can't pop something like this. Do it right.
Right.
Take the rest of the next year, figure it out. Hey, do we want to have a season? And go from there. What do they taste like?
Chicken, if you put barbecue sauce on it.
Right, you're right. See, there you go, Kyle. It's good to see them on the edge of extinction. They're brought back, but they have to be managed correctly. And that's the whole point of using hunters to your benefit is to manage
the species
correctly. There's been talk of having a moose season in Michigan.
Hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened because we don't have enough. Some people say, well, put a tag out there. Well, that's debatable. We changed the elk around in this state.
Wild turkey
we've changed. Mr. Miller's on the show. He was out at Williams yesterday, and I see Trump Jr. was out there.
Yeah.
But
Uncle Ted was there too.
Yes, he was. And I think managed correctly, you can, and you're always going to have the interaction because humans are here. Whether it be with your pet, with your livestock, you're always going to have that.
Do you see that or hear about that a lot up in the UP from the locals who live there? Do they have a lot of interaction
yes.
or problems with wolves?
I wouldn't say problem. I say more interaction with them because they're there full time.
Right.
We're only there for a couple days, a few hours. They're there every day. Maybe they go for a walk every night. They've had interactions with them. Whether it be hunting or walking. So, yeah, the locals up there definitely have an opinion of them, good, bad, or indifferent.
What do you think?
They don't like them.
The locals don't like them.
Nope.
Don't want them there. Is that because of farming practices?
Well, no, I think,
or deer?
It depends on where they're at. If you have a buffet on your land, why would they want to leave?
Right.
They don't. If you don't have a buffet, they move on, which means you don't have no deer now. Or whatever animals they're taking off your property.
Right.
Yard carp.
I saw that.
So
thanks, Kyle.
Yeah. So the UP has got a little bit different.
I do. The people that have daily interactions or weekly interactions with them on the local level, they're going to have a problem with them, I think.
Exactly.
Because it directly affects their livelihood, I think.
Exactly.
Whether it be deer, mom and pop shop, if they're in there and they're taking deer out and deer population declines, people are not going to be hunting as much, so maybe mom and pop's grocery store is not getting as much business during deer season.
Well, okay, there's that. And then, not going to lie, there's people out there that depend on the deer for all year round. Not going to lie. Whether it's legal, illegal, I don't care. They need to survive.
Right.
So if you have a species that's coming in, and this includes yotes too, that are coming in, running off your deer, which is your menu, you're going to be a little upset. Or maybe you're an outfitter. Right. Maybe, whatever. But, so the wolves are coming off the endangered species list. Do you fear for your safety while archery hunting with wolves in your woods? We don't have them here in Indiana. No, I really don't. When I've seen them, they've always been on the move. When my brother's seen them, they were always on the move. They were never, that's not to say now, depending on the situation, that things could turn around pretty quick. But if it's actually, I'm probably more afraid of bear early season than I am anything.
Okay,
because I made that one. I wouldn't say it was a mistake. It wasn't a fatal mistake, but I came between a cub and wherever mom was, and I did not feel real comfortable. And it was October.
Did you hear the snapping? The teeth.
We saw the little guy run, and me and my cousin looked at each other, and we
said it's time to leave.
Yes.
That's not what you said, but that's in a roundabout way. That's what you said.
So it could turn bad. Well, as far as wolves, it could turn bad. As far as yotes, you got into that issue in the lower.
Yeah. Well, we've had wolves on our property in the lower. There's been 3 sightings of wolves on our place up north in the northern lower. And the only instance I was ever really concerned or worried is once I saw a track that was cut in the snow. It was in early March. Or maybe it's February. I can't remember. We were up coyote hunting, and we cut a wolf track, and it was the only track we saw on the whole property. There's no way it was a coyote track. It was way too big. The gate was way too long on it, and it was running the main trail. And that day, we did not see a bird, squirrel, deer, nothing. We saw no living creature on our property, and it was the strangest, oddest day I've ever spent in the woods.
It's pretty quiet, doesn't it?
It was incredibly deafening quiet, and the person I was with, I kept saying, man, dude, something's going on here. Something's wrong.
Right.
And we cut that wolf track heading back to camp that morning, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is why. Yeah, wolf's on the property, and there's nothing around. It scared everything off.
Right.
So.
Jordan Miller had an interaction with 2 wolves last year out of deer they harvested in Manistee. They would not stand down even after warning shots. It's time to manage the population. It works for them too. Mm-hmm. It's their food. They need to survive, and you're in the way, and you're trying to take it from them. So they are not.
Jim Miller asked, doesn't wolves have a big impact on deer in the UP, especially in the yarding areas? That's up in your area.
Yep. Absolutely. It's basically putting out the dinner bell. Ken must be attracted to the fish smell on you all the time. Nice. You're right, Jim Miller. They know where the menu goes. When they start yarding up, it's that snow gets deep, and they can't get on top of it. Where
we see it at our place up north. The same thing. The coyotes pack up, especially when you've got 2 feet of snow on the ground. They're running on top of the crusted snow. They're chasing the deer down, killing deer. I mean, we see deer kills on a regular basis up there between January and March.
The easy pickings.
Mm-hmm.
They'll start with the weakest ones first.
Yep.
Or as we talk about the herd and the health of the herd, whether they're stressed, weakened, or whatever, those go next.
Mm-hmm.
Which then puts your bucks out there, and that's a whole nother discussion. But it's time to put it back in the state's hands, and let's do it right and manage them.
What I hope happens, I hope that's what that does get back in the state's hands. I hope this doesn't go up into the courts again, where they put a stop on this and say, hey, we're going to look at this and make a ruling and yada, 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 where we've went through so many times. I'm hoping that this is finally it, and then we can start true management and move on with this. So.
If you see a random bonfire burning in the middle of the nowhere, someone has popped a wolf, so I've heard. Not true. You will never know when one is... you won't see a bonfire. Just I put it to you that way.
Well, from what we've been told, a lot of these wolves have mortality chips in them, and as soon as they've been shot, that mortality beacon goes off. DNR is on them pretty quick.
How far south in Michigan do we have wolves?
I know Alcona County. I know we've had them in Alcona.
So say from Grayling up.
Yeah, Grayling-ish up.
That we know of that has been talked about. So, yeah. But no, you won't see a bonfire. Trust me. It'll be shoot and shut up.
Yeah, there's been many methods people have bragged about and actually been caught on.
Right.
They busted, I want to say somebody here in Bay City. Didn't somebody get
they busted
for shooting 3 wolves?
Yep.
And I think they were chipped, and that's how they got them.
Yep. They know the ones that are chipped and they get a hold of them, they know pretty quick. Exactly. Especially if they're chipped or collared.
Yep.
So...
Well, I'll tell you what, we're bumping up here on the end of the show. Been a lot of good talk tonight. A lot of good interaction from all of our listeners.
Yeah,
tonight.
A lot of good interaction from our listeners. It's always great to have you guys on board talking about this stuff. It's going to be a nice week towards the end of the week here. And
if we ever get there, the way the weather's going, man, it's going to be blowing and cold.
Right.
But when we get there, it's supposed to be in the 60s?
Yep. 60s and sunny. 66, I think I saw.
Yeah, with a nice southwesterly breeze blowing warm air in. So we'll see how that shakes out.
We'll see. Next week, we hope to have Better the Hunt on. We're going to be talking about all his products for the upcoming Christmas season. Show him what you got. We'll have him in the studio. We got him in sitting over there. And then we'll have on some other people. November 15th, which is a Sunday, we will be running the Nevin story because we won't be here. And then we'll be rolling. We'll be trotting right into turkey season, Thanksgiving.
Oh, my turkey season.
Yeah, don't you go down the aisle and start shooting at your local...
They threw me out of the local supermarket for that.
Oh.
They didn't like that. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Mark.
Good seeing you in the cabin tonight, man.
Yep.
Ice season's just on the horizon. You got that right, Kyle. We got hopefully we get some ice this year.
Kyle, we talked about that last week. Hopefully we do get some good ice.
Yeah.
We're going to... With all these shows being canceled left and right,
we got to do some ice fishing.
We got to get out. We threw around Kyle getting up to Houghton Lake for a weekend.
So there's plans starting to form in the works, so to speak. But that'll do it for us this week here on the podcast portion of the show. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, go over to iTunes, give us a review if you would. That helps us out. If you're listening to us there, make sure you go over to all of our social media sites and give us a like, follow, share there as well. If you'd like the show, please share it, and go over to our supporters page and sponsors pages and do the same for them. That'll do it for us on the podcast this week, folks. Y'all take care. We'll see y'all again next week.
This episode was brought to you by PSE Archery,
Buck Bait,
Better the Hunt,
Rebel 6 Rubs and Seasonings,
Easy Cut,
Lim Walker Game Calls,
Sunrise Archery,
Total Heat,
Hunter's Blend Coffee,
Packer Max,
Fourth Arrow Camera Arms,
Scent Blocker,
Scent Lock,
Copper John,
and Stanislawski Release Aids.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe until next week on the Up North Journal.